Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. Really excited to be joined by Amar Khalil. He's been singing since the age of 11. Was with Toni essentially 20 years, and now is branching into acting. Got new music out, so really excited to talk to you.
Yeah, hey,
man.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here.
Sure, and we were just reminiscing about SAC and things like that, and having spent some time in Oakland. When you come back through, what are some of the memories that spring to mind about sort of being in Oakland and getting started?
Ah, man, running the lake.
There you go. It's beautiful stuff.
No, man, it's a lot of beautiful memories here, man, because I grew up on 109th.
Right, okay.
So it was right on the border of San Leandro and Oakland.
Right.
So we kind of had the best of everything around us, man. It was a lot of musicians. So my drum teacher, when I first started playing drums, was William Kennedy, who's the drummer for the Yellow Jackets.
Right.
And so they lived across the street, but a few houses down.
Right.
And then his brother was Herschel Kennedy, and he was known for being Herschel Happiness, playing for Larry Graham at Graham Central Station.
Nice.
We had Ted Sparks, who used to play drums for Natalie Cole, lived in the neighborhood. We had Parrish down the street who played bass, and I mean, man, it was like
music delight.
Right, you know what I'm saying? And then, and just being from Oakland with all the great musicians and the talents that have come from Oakland.
Right.
So whenever I come back, man, it's that bittersweet, because I remember when you can just ride through Oakland and there was a lot of love and folks playing music, and now you come through here, now you kind of like, now you blasting through, trying to make sure you're cool.
And get in, get out.
So it's bittersweet, but Oakland brings back a lot of memories.
At that time, did you ever even dream about maybe singing with this group or singing with the group, forming your own? How did sort of that memory kind of turn into reality, or that dream?
So my uncle had a band, so they're in my grandmother's house, so waking up or to music and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't really tripping off of music, but it was around.
Right.
But then when I got to the 7th grade, the school had a talent show.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm gonna sing in the talent show.
I could do it.
Now, I didn't know I could really sing, but I was like, I'm gonna sing in the talent show. And I sung Bobby Caldwell's "What You Won't Do for Love."
Yeah.
And
classic.
Everybody went crazy. They were screaming and hollering. I was like, oh, okay. I think this is where I'm headed. And the choir teacher, Mrs. Phillips, was like, boy, how come you ain't tell nobody you could sing? I was like, I don't know. She was like, next semester, you're in my class.
Right.
And then it just continued. It just snowballed, for sure.
Now, how did the opportunity actually transpire? Did you actually join a group or like formally audition beforehand, before you got discovered?
So when we so it was a lot of talent at our school.
Sure.
So Raphael Saddiq so we grew up together from knee high to frogs, and so he played bass, and then we ended up starting a group while we were in junior high school, and we used to audition for a lot of the Richmond talent shows, and they would have out at the Richmond Auditorium, and different talent shows throughout the Bay, and we won. We won. So it was myself, his cousin Kenya, his cousin Elijah, who I'm in a group with now, 3TOB, which basically stands for Tony's original band. And so it was all of us, man, and that's just how we got down. We formed it, and we was all playing, singing in church, and all of that. The classic story of singing in church. But it all started from school, being in the school band, and being in a neighborhood just full of musicians and talented people, and so that's how we just kind of moved along. So
Sure. How did the music come together? How did you? Sometimes people are like, the lyrics came first. Other people are like, nah, we wrote. Other times people are like, oh, somebody helped write for us or with us.
There is no formula. You can, like, sometimes I'll have an idea and I'll put it down and try to write to it. Be like, okay, I'll come back to it. Then you're in the studio working on something else, and then be like, oh, I got some lyrics for that.
Right.
And then you pull up and say, and see if it fit, and it fits, then you work with it that way. Sometimes just listening to Michael Jackson or something,
Right.
you could be singing or listening to the music, and then you'll just start singing something else. And you'll be like, ooh, that's a nice vibe.
Right.
But then of course you can't sing the same melody
Right.
as the Mike song, so you'll flip it to make it fit your thing. So inspiration comes in different forms, and there is no formula. Sometimes somebody, the music could come, sometimes the lyrics could come,
Right.
sometimes the melody of just humming and something along comes.
Right.
So yeah, it's no set formula. And for me, it's a vibe thing. I can sit on something for a while.
Right.
For a while.
meditate.
Before, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, I'm about to write to that.
Right.
And then it comes.
So, how did this transition occur? Was it kind of always planned, or you kind of would just sort of follow the group because you and Raphael were close? How did you guys work that out?
So we were always, like I said, we grew up together. We was always cool, always close. When the group started, I was living in LA, and then moved back. The group had started, and they was just really just doing local shows and stuff like that. And so then Denny and Tommy, from Foster and McElroy, produced In Vogue and all that kind of stuff, they dialed in some kind of way, and then they hooked up, and then of course they got the demo to what's the guy name? Wing Records. I forgot who the president's name is. I can't. It's escaping me right now. So they got the group together and all that kind of stuff. And then I came back, and then I was just working with them, just supporting whatever they needed. You know, you need somebody to do wardrobe. Right. I mean, I'll iron the clothes. You won't need somebody to cut your hair, because I was known as a singing barber in Oakland too. So I would cut hair and do all that kind of stuff like that. Went on the first tour. So then as the years progressed, and then Raphael decided to do his own thing, he kind of left the group in limbo. And so one day I went by the studio, Dwayne's studio. I was working for this water company. I won't say who they are, but I was working for this water company.
A big, large water company.
Yeah, and I pulled up in a big old truck with the water jugs all on it. And just kind of went in the studio, hollered at Dwayne, was like, man, I'm just signed. He's like, okay. So he was in there working on something, and he was like, hey man, you got time to do some background vocals for me? I was like, yeah, whatever, okay. So did that, and after I got out the booth, he was like, man, I forgot how you and my brother got similar vibe and tone and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah. He's like, man, you sound good. I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, man, what's up with the group? He was like, nothing. I said, y'all ain't, do people still call you for shows? He's like, all the time. And I said, well, you're not doing it. He was like, bro, I don't want to do it. I said, okay. I said, well, if you need somebody, you know I could do that, right? He was like, you know the songs? I was like, come on, Dwayne. I didn't been around here since the beginning of time. He's like, right, my bad. So he was like, all right, bet, you'll be down? I said, yeah, I'll be down. Man, I think 2 or 3 days later, he was like, hey man, got an opportunity to do a show. You want to get in? I was like, yeah, let's roll. So it was a summer jam that was in Manteca, and it was with Missy Elliott, SWV, MC Hammer, somebody else, and us. And it was about 10 to 12,000 people out there, man. It was an awesome experience. And so that was the first show, and that's how it came about. We rehearsed, did the show, and then next thing you know, we had another show, then another show, and then the next big show was with, it was the last show that Roger Troutman did before he died, and it was with Rick James and Roger Troutman at the Berkeley Greek Theater. So, yeah, man, and then that started in 20 years, well, with him for 20 years.
What do the songs mean to you? How do they speak to your heart?
It all depends, man. I love the stuff that the brothers wrote, as a collective. It was a talented group of individuals, Raphael, Dwayne, Tim, Carl, Elijah, Antron. And then, of course, Denny and Tommy worked on the first album project. And so the songs, man, they had different songs had different meanings, and they were special. Even singing them and stuff like that, I have my favorites. But when I worked on my inspirational project with Jamie Hawkins, son of the late great Bishop Walter Hawkins and Tremaine Hawkins, I put out an inspirational project, and man, I actually got more satisfactions doing the inspirational stuff than I did, even though I love doing the R&B stuff. And I think for me, because each song that I wrote, it has something behind it. Like my grandmother wrote this song for my grandmother, wrote this song when she was in the hospital, wrote this song after when seeing her transition from life moving on, and being in the room with her, and it appeared like she had a glow over her body. So being able to perform those songs, but then able to tell people the story behind it, because I can talk when I'm on stage. Sometimes I have to remember, like, dude, they come to hear you sing, not talk.
Don't narrate too much, but a little bit.
So those songs had a lot more meaning to me because they were just heartfelt.
No, absolutely. You had such a personal connection to them. What are the things that those elements that continue to make the music, I mean, it's still on playlists today, so long lasting?
Good topics. Good topics. Great melodies. Songs that just went into an era at just the right time. It's like, wow, man, that song, it just feels good, and it just fits. I mean, you can think of like, even though it rains in California all the time, it's a perfect kind of song and fit to just say it never rains in Southern California. But then you have Bill Withers, Lovely Day. It's just like, when you hear it, it just feels good, and you feel like you just gotta sing to it. It's not like you're gonna switch to say like, I don't want to hear that song. You're gonna turn it up like, this is Bill Withers. So yeah, songs have songs that connect with, like I said, certain era and time, special meaning, or if you can relate that song to a relationship or a time in your life, you like. So Bobby Caldwell's songs, What You Want to Do for Love, will always be my song, because that was the first song that I had ever sung in front of an audience. So yeah.
On the flip side, how do you all deal with the challenges of sort of, even now with your group, sort of navigating different people, schedules, personalities, demands?
It's the worst. It's the worst. Man, honestly, being in a group, it could be beautiful at times, but it's the worst, man. Because exactly what you said, time, people's schedule, people things that they have that feel like it's more important than what you have to do. People not respecting your time, and just figuring out a way to make everybody in that situation happy. Something that I had told my son's coach one time, I said, you kind of got to know your personnel. There are people that you can, because I had an issue with him the way he was coaching, and then I know he's in college, and I shouldn't be talking to the college coach like that, but I got an issue with you. So I had to sit down and have a meeting with him, and I told him, I said, listen, man, you have to know your personnel. There are kids that you can kick in the butt, and they'll say, "Oh, okay, coach," and they'll move the way you want to move. There's a kid that you kick in the butt, he's gonna turn around and be like, "Partner, kick me again," and we're gonna have some problems up in this piece. And then you got a kid that you kick, he gonna go into a shell, and he's not gonna do anything. I said, you gotta know your personnel, know who. So you can't talk to each kid the same way. So it's the same thing when you have group members. You have to know, man, dude gonna take it too personal. So you can't we had to come at him a whole nother kind of way.
Sure.
And it's funny because for one of the guys in the group, we always like, what level he on today? And it's like, oh, he at 4 today. Okay, we cool. So yeah, sure. Man, it's kind of a trip navigating that.
Sure. What were the factors that went into you all sort of making this transition to sort of get to the original band?
So when I left the group, the Tonys and stuff like that, a few of the other members had already departed.
Right.
And they were playing with, like Jubu and Carl were playing with Frankie Beverly and Mays, right. And they had been with them for like 20 years as well as me being with the Tonys for 20. And then Elijah, Raphael's first cousin, he had to do some time, you know, which he's candid about, sure. Telling his story about, so right. I'm not like dropping no bomb on nobody. But when he got out and he came back with the Tonys for a second, then he left and was doing his own thing. Then he had an idea for a documentary, and it was called Loyalty No Royalty. Right. And so it caused a lot of controversy, but we did the documentary anyway. Sure. And from that we were like, man, we need a song for the documentary. Right. And so we got in the studio, all the ex-members, and put the song together. It came out really nice. We was like, hey man, we need to just turn this into a group thing. You know, although we were here telling our story and put the documentary out, let's do the group thing. So that's kind of how 3TOB started and stuff like that. And then that's how we all got together. So it stemmed from the documentary, and then evolved into the group thing. Yeah.
Right. And then you also got bit by the acting bug. Was that in part because of the documentary, or it was always there?
Well, I always, because I had done theater early on, and then even when I was in high school, I did Beach Blanket Babylon over in San Francisco, which was one of the longest running off-Broadway musicals. Right. So I got a chance to do that for a season coming out of high school. And then I picked up little bitty roles here and there. I did a BET Arabesque film, did a film with Nas, Sacred is the Flesh, and we're just kind of hitting and missing. And then right before the pandemic, I was like, I'm about to start back. But then the pandemic hit, so that slowed everything down. Then when the pandemic opened back up, I was like, you know what? I'm about to rock and roll. So I've been working on some things, working on a play right now, doing Romeo and Juliet, but it's set in New Orleans. So the theme of the play is set in New Orleans. So it's picking, so it has the dialogue of Romeo and Juliet, but it has all the voodoo and all that other kind of stuff, and the nuances of New Orleans and all that kind of stuff. Then I've done Fitbit commercials and all that other kind of stuff like that, Cisco. So I've been just, you know, auditioning for stuff. So I'm trying to get into that side of it.
Sure. And is that what you enjoy the most, or you still like being able to produce some of your music too and get it out?
I think it all falls underneath one umbrella. Sure. But I really do dig acting though, because you get to kind of kick back and watch and see how you did see people's reaction. I did an episode of Wives with Knives, and all that kind of stuff like that. So watching all of that stuff back, it's like, it's a different kind of dynamic, but I dig it both. I dig them both.
Sure. You seem very deep and very spiritual. How do you stay grounded and focused?
Because man, without God, it ain't happening. You know, we grew up in church, and my grandparents made sure we was in church all along, you know, all the time. And of course, as you grew up trying to figure out what you want to do, you in church, you out of church. You in church, you out of church. Out of church, out of church, out of church, out of church, and then all of a sudden you be like, man, I gotta get my life right. I just think as, for me, having children and everything, trying to give them the right foundation, whether or not people agree with religion or spirituality or whatever or not. My thing has always been, if it's taking your life from a negative to a positive, then it's got to be good. And so for me, I've seen so many things happen, man, and I've seen through prayer things happen, and it was like, that ain't nothing but God, you know. And so it's like this one incident, there was a youngster that got abducted from one of the schools around by our house. And so they didn't know what happened to him. And they had helicopters flying around, people were out searching, and it turned on the news and it was on every news channel. So I just jumped up from the couch and I was like, I'm going to go look for this boy. So I'm driving all through the neighborhood, driving on the back river road and all that. Then I just stopped and I said, okay, God, where is this boy at? Gotta find this boy. So I leave there, and I'm sitting and I'm praying, and I start the car up and I leave. So I'm driving back through the neighborhood, and then I forgot which way I was coming around, and I ended up going down the street, Southport. And as I was driving down Southport, I saw the police, and I pulled up, and they were pulling the boy, carrying the little boy out from the bushes. And it was like a wetland area, you know. And the little boy was shaking and he was nervous and all that kind of stuff. And I jumped out and I was like, oh my God, y'all found him. And I was like, oh, praise God, praise God, praise God. So then I jetted and went up to the school because they had like the news people out of school. And I jetted, I'm flying down the street and get to the school, and I was like, they found him. It was like, they were like, we know, we just heard it on the police scanner. So I go home and tell the wife, and it was just like, I was just sitting on the couch like, oh God, you did that. Couldn't have been nobody else but God, you know. So for me, just believing is what it is.
Sure. What message would you give for sort of young people that may be coming up, that really to understand that this career is very complicated? It's not something totally straightforward. You get a couple of hits and you're set.
Man, my grandmother used to always say, man, that music is going to drive you crazy. And there have been times when it was like real close, real close. You gotta have a foundation, man. And a strong foundation. You gotta have a belief system. You gotta have some real people around you. I'd say all the time Michael Jackson would still be alive if he didn't have a bunch of men around him. Now, that's my thoughts now. Sure. God says something different. God would say it's his time. His time is, his season is over, because we all have seasons. But I just believe if he didn't have yes men around him said, Mike, don't do this, Mike, don't do that. So I would tell some of the youngsters that's coming up, learn the business, learn your craft, be grounded, mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, have good people around you, and stay focused, man, because the moment you lose focus, it's a rough one. It's a rough one to come back with, and I've had my moments.
No, everybody has. That's why we're trying to learn from you guys.
You know.
Our show's called Music and Medicine. When you hear those words, what does that mean to you?
That music heals. Music has a way of healing you, man. So we got to be careful also what we put out there, and stuff like that, because music is such a driving force in what we do. People listen to music in locker rooms to get amped up for a big game or a fight. You listen to music to calm your nerves at night when you're trying to rest and go to sleep. We listen to music when we're trying to give God praise, and then we listen to music when we mad. There's been times when I'm working out in the garage. I'm not mad, but I got Ice Cube on because I'm in the garage trying to get it. So, so music is definitely medicine and music to the soul. So yeah, music and medicine has a way of healing.
Sure, I love it. Tell us where we can find you. Tony's original band and the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, 3TOB, folks can dial in to 3tob.com.
Right.
We got new music up. We got great new project. Yeah, it's just wonderful. On Facebook, Amar Khalil.
Sure.
Instagram only, and then the number 1, Amar Khalil. Twitter, well, it ain't Twitter no more. Sure. It's Malcolm X. I call it Malcolm X. Exactly. It's only 1 Amar Khalil. Right. Yeah, just tap in, man. The music is on Amazon, Spotify. So I have my solo stuff that's on there, and then the 3TOB stuff. So Spotify, Amazon Music, all that stuff, Apple Music. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Last question: what's something that you want people to know about you that you don't think they may realize?
I'm a lover, not a fighter. No.
I'll take it.
What I want people to know is that I don't know, man. I just love people. Love life, and grateful for the journey. Good, bad, or indifferent, man. I love life and love people. Yeah.
Yeah, the process can make you stronger.
Oh,
Thanks
for sure.
Great to have Amar Khalil join us, Tony's original band, and he continues to put out great music. He's got a project coming out, Romeo and Juliet. Please check it out. Continue to support him. He's so positive and an inspiration to us. The music continues to be some of the soundtrack of our lives, and really, as he said, he continues to love God and is positive and supportive about that. So we certainly can't be anything but inspired. So thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate having you.
Indeed.
Sure.
Yes, sir.